What's going on? Move the Mouse here, back in City Skylines with our Let's Play Season 2, Episode 14, the town of Santa Rico. Probably shouldn't call it a town, it's probably a city at this point. I'd say it's big enough. So I did a little bit of building in another map offline, and what I was able to unlock was building 5,000 squares of farming, and that gets you the climate research station. So I've mentioned it in previous tutorials, but any unique buildings that you unlock the requirements for, those become unlocked once you reach that milestone. So we've got to find a spot for our climate research station. This measures details about air pressure, weather, and humidity, and citizens might get more accurate weather reports thanks to the research station. Now, why we want to drop this in is because this is one of the requirements. It looks like this is a great building to stick out by our airport. I think that kind of makes sense, right? Can we cram it in right there? Be awesome. I think it would kind of make sense out here. I don't know if it... that tower kind of seems like it might be in the way of the runway, but the planes don't seem to mind. That kind of works right there. Let's pause it. Let's go and just double check our electricity hookups, make sure that those are spreading okay. Looks like it is. We should be fine there. I want to show you something. So I did drop in the space elevator through a couple buildings in here, it looks like. The oh, road maintenance depots. So you get vehicles that man, that space elevator is a little wonky when you go over it. So this will actually send out there you go. So this will actually send out vehicles to improve the condition of the roads. So the roads aren't necessarily bad, but they can be better and make traffic faster. So I dropped some of those around the map. But more important is when I drop the space elevator in, let me put it on 3x speed so you can see all the people. I think I mentioned in a previous map I was screwing around with, this is a huge tourist draw and generator of revenue for the city. It also has an absolutely enormous upkeep though. So it's $16,000 per week. But look at all the people that come streaming in. And the nice thing is if you put this in close proximity to your airport, specifically the international one, all these people will come into the city. And you'll actually see when the plane lands, they go to the space elevator and then they'll come back to the airport. So none of those people are spawning cars as a result. You can see some cars get spawned that are going to head into the city. They're not going to drive over here and park at the space elevator, but a lot of people will just walk it and get back to their plane after visiting and leaving some money in the city. So that is a nice thing. Through in the medical center monument over here, we put the Hadron Collider down here, and then I thought a good spot for the Eden project was right here in Central Park. So until Park Life comes out, we've added a couple plazas in either corner. We've put the actual Central Park unique building and put in the Eden Project monument, which all kind of have a nice green parky feel. Eden Project is absolutely amazing. It's probably my favorite. I do love the fusion power plant because you don't have to worry about power anymore, which is nice. But this one I think has the coolest impact on the city. So it completely reduces pollution, so much so that if you leave it running long enough, even with a bunch of dumps, it will get you down to 0 ground pollution. There is an achievement for getting 0 ground and water pollution in a town of over 10,000, and I did it in over 100,000. But you can see basically the only pollution, these are 4 recycling plants servicing this area of the city, the only pollution is in the buildings themselves, and they're not spreading to the ground around it. Same thing here with these recycling plants, and I'm trying to think where else. I think I had some other recycling plants. Maybe I had one by the airport. I did. So there's just no pollution spreading. But the other thing is because there's no pollution, it raises the land value, and it makes it just absolutely off the chart high for land value everywhere on your map. So basically off the map, it has no influence. On your map, anywhere there's ground, it's going to be the most valuable land, which means more tax revenue for your city. Now you could, once you kind of have all these things in place, like the medical center monument, which provides medical coverage to everybody, the Hadron Collider provides education for everybody, and you've got things like Eden Project, you could crank the taxes up a bit, Because as long as people are happy and they have the services that are necessary, they're willing to pay more for taxes. But honestly, at this point in the game, we have so much money that we don't really need to worry about making money off of people from our town. We just need to worry about where to cram in kind of the last couple things that we want to fit in here. So with that out of the way, let's look at what our requirements are for the ultimate recycling plant. Oh, we need to construct the lungs of the city, which I actually demolished at one point. I had that built up in Central Park. So this is a pretty big kind of park-like object. Fills a vast area with trees, providing the city with fresh, lovely air. Citizens visit the park to relax and see the magnificent trees. So let's see if we can cram this into our back into our Central Park, just because it fits the theme. I'd love to get it in right there, but it looks like we're gonna have to knock out our trails to do that. That's not too bad of a concession. We can rebuild those real quick. Let's throw it right there, and we'll build our trails around it. In fact, I think we can even connect some to it. So let's knock these out and reconnect those up a bit. Back into our landscaping. I'm starting to remember where this is. It used to be on the Parks tab. Let's go into curve. We'll curve this away a tiny little bit so we can come over here. And let's see where it will let us connect to on... Does that actually create a trail that connects? No, it does not. So let's not bother with that. We'll do that, and then we'll kind of connect this back up so that people have a way to kind of get everywhere. Central Park does come with a road, which I've connected here. And that should do the trick. So I like that. So we've got, you know, this giant lungs of the city, which is this tree farm. We've got Central Park. We've got the Eden Project and a couple little plazas in there for now. That will tide me over more than enough until Park Life comes out. What we can do now is let's go check our requirements. We might have everything built. No. Construct the floating gardens. So there's a bunch of uniques that apparently I had not done yet. Floating Gardens is locked. 5,000 squares of organic and local produce specialization built. Dang, okay. Let me throw it on pause. I'm going to... Well, you know what? We have enough demand. We have a ton of demand right now. Let's save it. And we will redefine our commercial district, which should be over here. So this one has a ton of commercial in it. Let's throw the... We're going to save it and reload it. So we'll define this one as organic and local produce. We'll hit it at 3 times speed. All those businesses should move out. I thought I had all these requirements unlocked, but I recently unlocked all these unique buildings and monuments on PC, and I was getting a little bit mixed up if I had done it on console already. Apparently I had not. So we'll let that play at 3 times speed. Like I said, we've got a ton of demand right now for commercial. So this might be a good way to flip this over to green. I don't know if this is going to be sustainable in the long run, because I think this was helping support our Caesar Square high-tech buildings. But let's give that a minute. We'll time-lapse this. We'll be right back. We'll see how many squares that gets us. It should be a decent chunk of it if it all builds back up before the demand goes away. We're already at 1,000, and it hasn't even, as you can see, really built up a lot of that space. So we'll see kind of what pops up here in the next few minutes. So bear with me, and we'll be right back, and we'll convert a couple of these zones over. Maybe we'll keep them, maybe we'll just reload the save once we've unlocked the buildings. Either way, we'll be able to drop the floating gardens in next. This one requires 30 instances of parks and plazas, and then we've already built our Central Park, so that's not too bad. We can get all that done pretty quick in this video and get the ultimate recycling center monument built. And we'll talk about the capacity and what that can do for processing garbage in the city.
12 seconds later.
So just a quick note, I wasn't too happy with how fast the organic and local produce was picking up and rebuilding the zones. So I switched over every single commercial zone in the city to organic and local produce. And as you can see, they're not doing a very good job pushing the CPUs and GPUs at those stores, which has caused our high-tech section to absolutely crumble. The good news is we're almost at where we need to be for unlocking the floating gardens. While I was waiting for that, I went ahead and spammed a bunch of parks over here, because you have to do 30 parks and plazas. Kind of surprised I didn't have those spread out across the city just yet. But you do that to unlock the Ziggurat Garden, which is basically a nice indoor garden for the Sims to come walk around. Another tourist trap. We'll try and cram that maybe in our Central Park. Got this building also, which is drawing its fair share. But we're going to have to reload the save on this once we unlock these buildings, because we've absolutely crippled our industrial high-tech center here. So we had a pretty good sweet spot balance going, and as you can see, as soon as we switched that over, it really caused it to crumble so fast. So we won't be continuing with this save. I think that's a safe assumption. But we're almost there, 4,500 of 5,000, so we'll be right back once we unlock that building, and then we'll reload the save.
3 weeks later.
Alright, so we've unlocked the floating gardens. Now, I'm going to reload the save, and I'm 99% sure. I'm so sure that you don't have to save it that I'm going to go ahead and reload the save. It's going to be a painful mistake if I'm wrong, and I'm doubting myself now, but I'm going to go ahead and just reload the save, because I'm pretty sure once it's unlocked, and you don't actually have to commit that to a save game. Let's see if I'm right. Excellent. So the floating garden does require a shoreline. As you can see, it's out of the city limits over here, so we're going to have to kind of build it in this little nook over here. We could build it underneath our bridge or down in Byron Bay. We could bring some tourists down here. That would be interesting. Let's do that, because this is kind of our green neighborhood. We'll throw it off down here on this road that is otherwise not in use, just for the cemetery. That's kind of weird. This doesn't actually have a snap point for a road, so you kind of just have to draw one to kind of eye it. If it'll let me go where I want to go. So we'll turn our snapping options off. We'll just draw a road right like that. That should be close enough to the building that it will stop complaining. And we'll turn our snap roads back on. Didn't mean to do that. I meant to go to curve tool. Curve it out just a little bit. Then we'll curve it back in. If it'll let us. Invalid shape. Curve it out this way. It's going to be difficult. And then we will power this building. We have our little floating garden there now. Not complaining about power anymore. We'll drop in one more unique into Central Park. And then we will repair our roads. Central Park is very busy even before park life. Now, monuments, we can unlock the ultimate recycling plant. Now let's take a look at this and compare this to our regular recycling plants. Now, it's worth pointing out, because I did not mention it, and while I'm hovered over this, I'm going to smooth this out, because I hope we can clean that up a bit. Doesn't look like we can. Let's go max strength, max size. And it looks like we're pretty much kind of locked in there, unfortunately, because of the height difference in these roads. But I replaced all of the dumps and incinerators with recycling plants. They all do the same thing. They all process garbage. The landfills just store it. So once they're full, you have to either start a new landfill or send it to an incinerator, recycling plant, something like that. So we've done all recycling. Technically, all garbage in City Skylines is recyclable, and it will actually produce goods to then export or to ship off to industry. So we've replaced all of the dump sites with recycling plants. Now, these have processing capacity of 48,000 units per week, and they have 15 garbage trucks that get sent out to pick up garbage. So 48,000 per week. The ultimate recycling plant can process 480,000 per week. So that can basically take the place of 10 recycling plants. We look at the truck capacity again. 15 truck capacity on the recycling plants. The ultimate recycling center has 100 capacity. So we'll cram this in right by the airport. Yeah, space already occupied. Oh, it goes back too far, so I can't actually park it on the runway. That's too bad. We could kind of put it in over here for now. We'll end up moving this. But there we go, our ultimate recycling plant. And actually it has zero electricity usage because it converts the garbage into electricity as well. So that is a pretty sweet monument. Basically, we don't need recycling plants anymore as long as there's good road coverage. But honestly, again, money is really not an issue at this point. There's not too much that we need to drop in. I still haven't done the all of the natural disasters DLC on console, and in order to do that, you have to beat the scenarios, which are honestly kind of a nightmare. There's a traffic scenario that it's just the worst planned town ever. I may eventually do that to unlock some of these things, but that's a good spot for today. It's a fairly short episode with all the time lapse and cut down on all the waiting, but I wanted to get that recycling plant in there. We've got all our monuments, again with the exception of the natural disasters DLC monument. Since we don't have natural disasters on, it's not too big of a deal, but the next playthrough I might start working towards those, because I think it would be fun to play with the disasters on and kind of have some suspense there for things that might go sideways during the development of your town. So let's throw her on 3 times speed. What is this guy riding? Have weird bikes. See all our people again kind of just dropping in to give us some money and leave town. Fine by that. Don't generate any traffic. That's great. So we've got all our monuments in. We've got great city growth. We have a ton of demand for commercial and industrial, and I think what's going to be next is to start to fill out this little pocket right here. We will fill out the pockets closer to the highway as well. Start to build out this neighborhood, make it feel a lot more loose and get away from this original grid setup that I started the city with, and really kind of make it flow more with the lines of the terrain and the waterfront property. We'll start doing that probably in the next episode to have a little fun with it and slow the growth down a bit. And then the other thing that we need to look at is some of the problem intersections and start to determine other ways to have people get around. We haven't done any bus lines at this point in the city. Someone pointed out it would be kind of cool to have some taxis and stands near some of the touristy areas, especially around the park and things like the aquarium. There are other uniques that we haven't dropped in addition. So there are things like the driving range, the casino. So there's still plenty of stuff we can build into our city. We're just running out of room for it all. We've got this little pocket by the airport we could build back here. I want to keep things definitely looser over here on this side of the map, on this side of the highway. And we may eventually commit to buying some rail access, or maybe buying this tile over here, having a little tiny little farmland over there. I still don't know what I want to do with the last tile, and I'm afraid to commit. Isn't that just like a guy, afraid to commit? So maybe in the next episode we'll buy that, but we'll definitely start working on our lower density suburb area. Start to fill this out, start to make this blend a little more, because right now this is just a massive downtown area. And this over here is just a kind of a real small town. And I want this to feel more like one map. And I think right now it kind of feels like two. We're going to start blending this together. Maybe we'll do some underpasses, overpasses, connect some of these streets up to our neighborhoods over here. We've got plenty of trees if we wanted to get into some forestry, some regular industry even, maybe up in the hills. I haven't looked at where is resources. There we go. So we have a ton of forestry we could do. Why did all those buildings just level up? What are they so happy about? We have farmland that we won't be able to reach. We could get some oil. We could get some ore going. We could spin up a farm here right at the front door of the airport. That might be kind of funny. So there's lots of stuff we can still do. There's space to build, but I want to try and start to kind of blend it all together. Let me know your thoughts. What do you want to see kind of in the development of this city? We're getting to that point where I start to spin my wheels and I want to work on the next big town. But hopefully you're excited with some of the developments we've seen so far. We're still going to clean this one up, and I did promise to eventually show this city off at night. So maybe also in the next episode we can throw it. Maybe next episode we could throw the day-night cycle on, because it would be really cool to kind of see this city at night. I think there's going to be a lot of people moving around with 100,000+ people. There's going to be a lot of movement and a lot of things happening with 100,000+ Sims in the city. And I think it'll look pretty nice at night, especially in some of the downtown areas. But we'll start to tune and tweak things and build out some more over here in the next episode. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. A bit of an odd one, but again, hope you enjoyed nonetheless. If you did, please hit that like button. Shares and comments help the channel a lot as well and are greatly appreciated. If you're new here, subscribe. Hit that bell to get notifications. And until the next one, this is Move the Mouse, signing off.